Thank you, Councillor Hornsby. Councillor Tillson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I should probably be fairly brief. I'm delighted that we're being filmed. If I'd have known that, I'd have brought a leading lady. I've got a couple of technical questions which I shall ask Mr. Chambers, if I may, but I would start by saying that nothing I've heard this afternoon I would dissent from, and most of the issues I might have raised would be very ably raised by my colleagues. I've got three separate questions arising out of the report, if I may ask Mr. Chambers. I'll ask them all together. The first of these is we're looking at this enhanced ARC model, and the Strategic Leisure Report, which is Appendix A, estimates the capital cost of that at 7.5 million, and that's all in section 119 on page 27. Now that's based on a series of assumptions which are clearly bullet pointed at that same stage, 119, and there's some rather critical assumptions sitting in there. Among them assume good ground conditions and no contamination. And so my first of three questions is going to be, are you, Mr. Chambers, in a position to confirm that each and every one of those assumptions has been subject to the most robust testing? Are we at any future stage going to come back and discover that one or more of those assumptions ceases to be valid? That's the first one. The second one, and I go to page 53, this is site option 3B, so we're on the ARC Enhanced again. We've got some cost estimates on page 53, and in those cost estimates, if I can refer to that, we use the term base scheme cost. And I'm going to ask you if you can tell me what exactly does the term base scheme cost mean. It appears in the accompanying assumptions of that section that external works and site services and infrastructure are not included, and I'm intrigued to know why they're not included. And then 431, just a bit further down, also suggests that there's been no allowance made for inflation, etc. And I'm always very dubious about the word etc. in any sort of report. Could you tell me, Mr. Chambers, what exactly is the etc. in this particular case? And my third and final point arises out of letters and emails that I and doubtless colleagues have received, and the point is interesting, and you may be able to answer it, because a number of critics are claiming that the cost figures that are given in the report for the homes and the houses that are earmarked for development in South Road, Eversley Road, and on the existing Seabold School site are very significantly underestimated. And that is the claim. And if that were the case, then of course the funding gap which Councillor Dearden referred to at the beginning for the Princess Parade developments would of course be appreciably greater than is being suggested here. So I wonder, Mr. Chambers, whether you're in a position to comment on this proposition that there has been a significant underestimation of the cost of those developments. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Leader, and I apologise to Councillor Tillson for having my back to him while I answer, but I do need to look at my notes for his questions. Has there been robust testing of the assumptions on page 27? No, is the answer. As I said earlier, this is a high-level piece of work. The costs that have been estimated come from GVA based on the work that they have done. I will ask GVA for more detail of their assumptions behind those costs above and beyond that which is already included in their report, and I will circulate that and I will include it on the website. With regard to the second question under the base scheme cost, that is simply the phrase that Strategic Leisure have used for the base model and the enhanced model to indicate that it doesn't include the add-ons that they then refer to in terms of car parking and potentially external finishes and that kind of thing. So simply making the point that the base scheme cost for the base model and the base scheme cost for the enhanced model are simply for the modular build of the pool itself. Can I tell you what they mean by inflation, etc.? No. I will ask. And I will again come back to all cabinet members and publish whatever response they give me on the website. With regard to the cost figures for homes on the Princeton Parade site and the linked development sites themselves being significantly underestimated, I can simply reiterate that have taken advice from GVA. They've set out their thoughts on their evaluation basis. I will go back and ask for more detailed information and share that with cabinet members and put it on the website as soon as I receive it.
Councillor Dearden.
Yes, thank you. Well, firstly, yes, it is for the district, but it does impinge on Hyde, and I know feelings are strong on both sides, and this debate has got to be open to the fact that both points of view are being put. Now, again, Mr. Martin has put his professional reputation on the line because he's written on letterheading from a firm of chartered surveyors, as I understand it, and given that that chartered surveyors has the name Martin in it, I wonder whether he's a business owner as well. But he puts down £1,100 per square metre for the flats has been estimated, and £1,000 per square metre for houses. Their costs are inadequate. The real cost would be £1,700 per square metre for flats and £1,600 per square metre for houses. So we are facing the fact that somebody who is experienced and has expertise in this line has raised an issue. So I would hope that when we come back that we're not being vague, with all the best intention in the world, that we're not being vague and that we do have an ability to give proper answers to these queries, which could lead us down a very expensive line if we don't get it right. Amusingly, in one respect, the pool in Hyde was built to avoid the clutches of Shepway District Council when it was formed in 1972, and that certain councillors who the audience will know as Councillor Capon was very instrumental in getting the pool built before Shepway could get the money from Hyde Borough. So it would be nice if Shepway were to give some more money back to Hyde, and I like that thought. Shouldn't say things like that, should I, really? But I mean, the fact is, it's a tremendous opportunity, in my view, that if we get it right, and to get an open space that will be available, because since 82, when a trench was dug and then refuse from the canal was laid on it, it's not been accessible to the public, and it would be very nice if that area became accessible and that we recognise that it's a long haul before we actually see a swimming pool and accompanying buildings being opened. So I just wanted to make that. On the other point is about profile. Those people who could potentially lose their view, as I understand it, the kind of development we're looking at will be low profile, and one of the options available on the ARC model would be to move the machinery that would normally go on the roof into the building itself, which would protect it against the sea, but also remove that unsightly aspect. And I think properly dealt with, further down the line, we could see a great benefit if that is going to happen. I have my reservations, and they still remain, and the people in my constituency, so to speak, have their reservations, and I would like to put those when necessary. But on the whole, subject to the proposed amendments, I will go with it. But I do have that further amendment that I've put forward that I would like to put.
Thank you. Well, we've had a long and in-depth debate on this. Is there any other councillor that wishes to talk on this before I just want to say a couple of things. One of the things about the costs, when the indicative cost came back at 11 million, I was not pleased, and if the cost had stayed at that, we wouldn't be where we are today, because we wouldn't be going forward. As we go forward, we find that truly that our experts have got it wrong, then we will of course reconsider it, because we aren't stupid. I would now like to move the recommendations, taking in both the amendments put by Councillor Love and Councillor Dearden. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Belcourt.
I don't have a seconder to my proposal.
Oh, you don't have to, because I've just had it all done. That's why we did it. Okay. So.
Can I yes, I recognise that mine is in, and thank you, Lisa, for including those words. Could we just hear the explanation from the other additional words that have been suggested?
Of course you may. Otherwise you might not want to vote on them.
The wording is "and practicably available," and that's trying to establish that we proceed on proper funding that could potentially be available, and by using the word "practicably," that we are looking at serious considerations. The word "allocated," you can allocate something but not necessarily have the funds to allocate. What I'm looking at is allocated and practicably available.
I think it actually is the essence of what we're trying to do here. Okay, so with that, proposed by me, seconded by Councillor Belcourt, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.